What's going on, and welcome back to another tutorial. This week I'm actually going to show you how to make an OBS stinger animation in After Effects. So this is what the transition will look like. I didn't transition anything, but that's where it would have transitioned. And I'm going to show you how to make that now. So let's jump into After Effects and let's start breaking down how to simply make it. But then once you know the basic principles, you can kind of be a little more creative and make it your own. Oops, that's mine actually. So that transition you just saw is the one that I made for myself. It's a little more complicated than the one that I'm going to show, but if you'd like to see how I made that one, I can make that in a future video. Just let me know below. So the first thing that you need to do is create a new comp. So we are going to start by creating a new composition, which is, we'll just call this stinger animation, and we'll make sure it's 1920 by 1080. If you're streaming in 4K, you're going to want to make this a 4K composition. I don't stream in 4K, so I don't need to do that. So hit OK. The easiest way to go about this is the most simple animation you could probably make is adding a solid as a color, and you could literally set a keyframe here. Make sure there's at least at maybe the 6 frame or 12 frame mark it lands here, and then finishes off screen. But we're gonna get a little bit more complicated than that. So what we're gonna do is I am gonna use this solid. We're not even gonna jump into shapes right now, and I'm gonna do just what I just did because it'll be pretty much the base of the animation, and we'll make it we'll make it a 3-second animation so that we can show the logo popping up, show your brand, and then it'll animate out and it'll be a different part of your scene. So I'm gonna have my first frame and my last frame, and then at the 1 second mark I'm going to animate it so that it completely covers the frame. And then at the 2 second mark, I'm going to copy that keyframe and paste it there. So now we have 1 second of... Actually, we need to do this. So if you have a roving keyframe, this is something that as a beginner I dealt with a lot, and I was super frustrated, and I would just end up literally keyframing every frame in between, and I didn't know this. If you highlight the 2 keyframes where it starts to rove, right click on them and go to keyframe, sorry, not keyframe assistant, you go to keyframe interpolation and see where it says linear. See where it says temporal interpolation says linear, and then spatial interpolation says continuous Bezier. Bezier, I think it's Bezier? I don't know. I just know that I know what it does. That means that this is pretty much the property that is allowing these 2 keyframes to change values. And if you change it to linear, which means from point to point, it's one line, nothing. There's no curve. Which is what's happening is there's a curve, which is allowing that animation to come up and down. The linear setting just keeps it from A value to B value. So that's what we want to change that to. So once you click that, you can see there's now no longer an animation. It only happens between when the values change. So now this animation is very stale. Very stale. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna copy select the first 2 keyframes, and I bought a script called Flow. It's a great, I'll link it in the description actually. It's a fantastic line graph editor that kind of lets you change the animation quality. And so like for instance, if you pick just the ease, which is the exact same thing as right clicking, going to keyframe assistant and pressing easy ease. But if I just click that, whoops, I have to make sure I have these selected. If I just click that, then you'll see it comes in slow and ends slow. But what Flow allows you to do is it allows you to actually pick even more drastic ones. So like I don't have to show how slow it is in the beginning. I can just have it ramping in at a faster speed and then slowing down, having more frames to slow the animation down. So if I do that, it'll look more like this, which is a lot nicer. So we're actually going to stick with that. But if you would look at the line graph editor, it's the same thing as separating the dimensions, coming in here, grabbing your keyframe, and changing how fast it animates in. It gives it the exact same feel This plugin just kind of allows you to work a little bit faster. Now that I did that, I added the animation out as well that will allow it to be just as smooth going out. So animates in and animates out. Gives you a nice, easy transition, fluid transition, easy on the eyes, not a hard cut. So now that we have the base of the animation, we are now going to give it a little bit more of a flair. Well, the one thing that you can do is you could just duplicate this layer. So hit Control D or Command D on Mac, and you can then hit Control Shift Y or Command Shift Y on Mac, and this will bring up the color of the solid. And in this case, I'm just going to change it to, since this is like a orangish yellow, I'm going to now change to like a blue because they complement each other very well. And then what I'm going to do, and then you hit new to kind of confirm that it's a new color. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to animate this. I'm going to move down the timeline about 6 frames, or maybe actually seeing how it animates, 1, 2, 3 frames. And then I'm going to slide the blue down just a little bit to that 3-frame mark. And now you can see that your animation has it's more stylized. And for your brand, even if you have specific colors, you can come in here and change these to specifically your brand's color. So that is a simple way to do it. I'm actually just going to go a step further because going in threes is kind of the way to go. The rule of threes is always your friend. So we're gonna make this one. What color do we want to end on? How about like a tealish color? Is that teal? Turquoise. Thank you, After Effects, for telling me what turquoise is. So as you see, it animates up. It's smooth. It's professional. Actually, you need to flip these keyframes because now your top layer is animating out last, so it's covering the animations of the other one. So you actually need to grab these keyframes and move them down and kind of flip it and reverse it. Flip it, reverse it. It's the same way that it animates in, it animates out. So it comes in, lands, and then it'll animate with those colors out. But now we want to get a logo in here. I made a logo and I actually did a small animation to it. You don't have to do that to yours, but that's just kind of what I did. So I just have a little game controller coming up and then animating in live, this is actually, now that I'm looking at it, this is a good amount of time for it to come up. I'm even going to give it a little more lead in. Even a little bit more. Yeah, so as this stands, if I just animated this thing up and out with it, it would probably look okay, but I'm going to bring it a step further. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my shape tool, make sure I don't have any other layers selected, and I am going to find the center of the comp. I pulled that up by clicking apostrophe, and then I'm going to click. I'm going to hold Shift and Alt. Oh, no, Control and Alt, or Command and Alt on the Mac, and I'm going to make a circle that just fills up that animation. We're going to animate this circle. So as soon as this blue passes about that, or the turquoise passes that center mark, I'm now going to animate this circle up. Have it animate to this point, and put that to 0. Give it a more dramatic curve, and yeah, that looks good for a transition. Okay, so now the controller's still just flying from the bottom of the screen, which we don't want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate the shape layer, put it above the logo, and then for the logo layer, I'm going to go over to the track matte column and change the track matte from no track matte to alpha matte, which means the only place that this logo is going to show up is where this red circle is. So when I go back a couple frames, you can see that it will disappear at the edges of the circle, which makes it look like it's behind or it's in that circle. So this looks good, but like I said, it's too crisp. So what I want to do is I'm going to actually give an inner shadow to this circle so that it looks like there's a little bit more depth. So the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to duplicate that shape layer, put it above the mask layer. I'm going to duplicate the mask layer and put that above that newest duplication. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this into a stroke. So I'm going to remove the fill, so from that to that, and then I'm going to click on the stroke, and I'm going to give it a black fill. And now that just looks like there's a stroke around that, which that might be the look that you want, which it honestly doesn't look bad. It does look good. But I'm going to do the same thing that I did here, and I'm going to alpha matte that, so now it's on the inside. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a blur effect. So I'm going to go over to my effects and presets, and I'm going to search camera. I'm going to grab camera lens blur. I'm going to put that on the shape 3 layer, and then I'm going to kind of blur the heck out of it at the moment. So I'm going to give it maybe a 25 pixel blur. That's not bad. Maybe a 30 looks like. 30 is not bad. So let's see how this looks when it animates down. So now if you can see, it looks like it's animating from a little bit more of a distance behind the that circle, that inner circle. But I'm going to change the background color because I do have a little animation there. So we're going to actually change this to maybe, what color looks good? Maybe we'll do a deep orange. Yeah. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I don't mind how that looks. But now you can see the animation that I have that pops up that shows live. And then actually that hangs on a little too long, so I'm actually going to get this out of here as soon as I can. And then if we want to, we can wipe this off with those layers, or we can just animate it out how it came in. But I think I'm going to just animate it out with that layer. So the way that we're going to do that is we are going to pre-compose the entire logo animation. So we're going to hit Control-Shift-C on PC or Command-Shift-C on Mac. I'm just going to write logo animation, hit OK. So now this is all one layer. We can turn it on and off. You can see it's all one layer. But how do we get it to animate out? How do we make that a mask? It's the exact same principle as the shape layer. So what you're going to do is you're going to duplicate the turquoise layer, put it above the logo animation, take the logo animation and make that alpha track matte to the turquoise solid. And now, since it animates in on top of that, you don't see that the turquoise layer would be able to wipe it out. So what we're going to do is we're going to scroll over here, and now you can see it animates away with that layer. And if that's not the look that you want, then just animate it out, or you can even pre-compose all 3 of these layers and do the exact same thing. Duplicate it, put it above this, and make that the alpha matte. I'll actually just show you how that looks right now. So I'll delete that. I will pre-compose these. These are the solids. And then I can duplicate them, put it above, and it's already alpha matted, so you can already see what that looks like. Turn that off. Okay. So now you can see that it animates up, and then it's a little less of a harsh animation out. Personally, I like the turquoise look, so I'm going to stick with the turquoise one animating it out. But now we are ready to export it. So go to the end of whatever the last frame where it clears, hit N to close the bracket of the animation. You can, if you want to just be sure, you can toggle your transparency grid on and just confirm that there's an alpha layer. So now go up to Composition, Add to Render Queue, go down to your Output module, and change it to, on Mac you can just do animation and it lets you do an RGB and alpha. On PC I'm just doing the AVI. So I'm going to animate that out to where it needs to go. Save that there, and we will render. So now, as you can see, our animation, it'll allow you to hide that cut, and it makes your production value look even higher. So when you're streaming, or you can even use this in traditional editing, it gives you that extra element of professionalism. You care about your work, and you're reinforcing your brand. I'm also going to show how to use that in OBS. So I'm actually going to go into OBS and break down how to set up that transition and make sure that it works for whenever you're streaming or streaming. That's pretty much all you do with that. So if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and odds are there's another video that I've made that you will like, so check that out right here. Until next Monday, have a great week.